The Works program is something the community of youth that we run into here and all around the Northeast have been asking for. Where can I get experience? What can I put on my resume? I have no experience. We wanted to give an opportunity for youth to really build their skills, again, something that they can take out into the work. We bring in 10 youth from the Northeast area. We put them through very real world what it's like to work in a restaurant. We do skill building, knife skills, food safety, food prep, and preparing them to eventually go into the job market.
It's been really great. When I think about their first day in the kitchen, they were a bit quieter, maybe not asking as many questions. I think now they're really comfortable to just come to me and ask a question, and they seem to really be getting into it, enjoying it, playing around with ingredients. And I say this all the time, knife skills are life skills. And then, all these skills like communication and teamwork and being respectful in the kitchen. I always say, pretend there's guests out in the front, like no yelling, shouting. Yeah, they're learning all these skills. So they can take those skills anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a restaurant.
They mentioned, oh, it feels natural. It feels like second nature, for example, cutting the vegetables. They're seeing that their skills are already improving. If you take them from the first class to now we're in the fifth, in the middle of our classes, they can feel themselves becoming already adept of working in a kitchen and even working under the time constraints that the instructor tries to simulate a real workplace with.
I like learning new things about food that can actually help me in the real life and just if you want to actually do it as a career.
Nothing makes me happier than seeing young people coming in, working with us, for us. It's been just a real joy watching them. Super engaged and excited about what they're creating, and I hope some of them do pursue this career.
Because we are trying to simulate a real workplace, we're trying to build that confidence. In a few months, if somebody is able to be in a real restaurant, in a real kitchen setting, that they can not be intimidated by the pressure. That's really something that the instructor has really wanted to have the kids understand, that there will be real pressures, but that you have the skills to be able to deal with those.
The most difficult thing is just getting their foot in the door. So they don't have experience. People want to hire people. Do you have experience? No, I don't have experience. Well, how are they supposed to get experience without experience? But what I would like to see is that if one of the youth goes to a restaurant and they say, oh, I have this certificate from FoodWorks, that it actually means something. Then an employer can actually go, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of that. Okay, that's great, all right.
So we're hoping that myself as a youth worker that I can really follow up with the youth. It won't just be sort of a one-off, okay, you're done, here's your certificate, good luck. That because we're in this community, once they're done with the program, I can continue to engage with the youth and see how I can support them in their sort of journey into employment. We'll be recruiting within the schools, within organizations. We have posts on social media. We have a poster that has a QR code so that youth can apply themselves, and then I'll be able to reach out to them, go through the interview process with them. Again, even through that interview process, that's its own skill building, and we see if we can get 10 youth to come again in the spring and do it all over again.
Why are you doing this?
I want to learn how to cook.
Okay. And any interest in kind of part-time jobs in foods?
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
If I could get one.
Okay. I'm just trying to gauge why everybody's here, what you want out of this. Okay. We've got only 2 people from last week. I just want to we had a small group last week too. We had Tolu said there were going to be 11. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 last week. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone else, Tolu? Is this it for this week? So shall I wait? Get started? Okay, guys, so because we weren't all here last week, we're gonna start with hand washing, just basic hygiene, which is sort of what we did last week, was basic hygiene. So hand washing sinks, a lot of places they'll have a thing that you turn them on with your leg so you don't end up touching the tap afterwards, but just make sure you wash your hands. These are empty, so just use the pumps, wash your hands really well, dry them off, and then come back to me. So everybody needs to wash their hands You've already got your hats on and your hair tied back. So that's other basic hygiene. And every time you touch your face, do this. Obviously go to the bathroom, but anytime you kind of touch your face or your hair or anything like that, go and wash your hands again. And every time you've finished one type of prep, go and wash your hands again. So it's lots and lots of hand washing. And I think you guys have already washed your hands, right? Yeah, cool. Okay. Quick introduction to the two of you. I haven't met you before. My name is Catherine. I teach cooking for a living. I have a private business teaching cooking. So this is kind of like just an extension of what I do, but I teach home cooks, kind of elevated cooking, I would call it, and cuisines from around the world. So a kind of mix. At the moment, I do most of it. Yeah. You're gonna grab these guys. These are chef's knives. Yeah, you are. So, do you guys know what this thing's called? Anyone know what this is called?
Looks familiar, but I can't place
Yeah, this is a knife roll. It's a knife roll, is what we call it. So I keep my knives in here. So I don't have all my knives with you, but while we're all pulling out knives, just kind of a quick. These are a few of mine that I use a lot. So I'm telling you to grab a chef's knife. A chef's knife is, hi, how are you? What's your name? Trini? Trinny? Trini? Okay. And do you have any food allergies, intolerances? Okay, I'm Catherine. Nice to meet you. Okay, Trini, I'll write it down a little bit. So this is a chef's knife. It's kind of the long blade. It's the shape of the knife. It's called a chef's knife. They come in different sizes, usually between 8 to 10 inches. This is a Japanese-made one that I bought in Knifeware on White Ave. Go in there, and it's very expensive, but it's a fun place to go and try out knives. I do this for a living, so I spend a lot of money on this knife, and I have a few others. But this is, if you were to invest in one knife, this is the one. As a chef's knife, and mostly this is what I'm going to have you guys using. If we're using a smaller knife, I'll get you guys to use my knives. So I'm just going to put my knife roll over here, and I'll let you guys kind of use my knives as we go. But just a request, my knives are really expensive and I love them very much. So if you're using my knives, be really careful with them. When you are walking around with a knife, when you're grabbing it from over there, using it in the kitchen, hold it by your side when you're moving with it. None of this, none of that, no waving it around. It stays by your side until you've put it down on your cutting board. These guys were with me. This is KJ and Ruki. They were with me last week. You guys weren't. So just to show you cutting boards once we get going, I have a damp paper towel under my cutting board or a rag, like a little wiping up rag. It stabilizes it. It stops it from moving around, and then my knife is just going to sit on my cutting board like this until I'm ready to use it. This here is a garbage bowl. This is kind of basic prep setup, that you have a garbage bowl out, and then over here Ruki and KJ already have them. Come and hang out with us here. We're a nice small group, so we're just gonna hang around the island and work together. They have already grabbed their cutting boards. These are called bench scrapers. I'm gonna grab one myself. A bench scraper is, thank you, hun. This is one of my favorite low-tech tools in the kitchen. You use it for picking up ingredients and throwing it in the garbage, throwing it in pots. We also use it for making dough, for cutting dough. There's lots of things we use it for. But when I'm working, I always get one of these out, and it's by my side along with the garbage, my knife, and a cutting board. Today, I'll try and catch you up a little bit on the things that we did. We were just doing some basic knife skills. Today, we're gonna start making a vegetable stock and build on our knife skills. So we already chopped and froze some onions and shallots. I've just pulled them out and we're going to use them today. But we're going to start with a vegetable stock. And I just kind of wrote up on the board, stocks. The French name for stocks, and I went to French, it's a long story, I've been to culinary school 3 times. The first time was French culinary school. I went to the Cordon Bleu in England, and it's a year-long, we used to be, I think it still is, it's a year-long immersion in French cooking, which for me is not very applicable. It's great, it's interesting, I know all about French cooking. I don't find it personally very applicable nowadays to how I cook, but it is, from a European perspective, it's like the foundations of cooking. And the foundation of French cooking is stocks. They are very important in cooking. So the French word for a stock is fond, F-O-N-D, and it basically means foundation. So I think it's really good for everybody to know how to make stocks. In this setting, we have 2 hours together. We're also dishwashing. In this setting, we're not really going to make chicken stocks and veal stocks and all the other stocks that I make, unless we had an Instant Pot. I often make them nowadays quick in an Instant Pot, but typically like a chicken stock or a veal stock, which are my other foundations along with a vegetable stock. I cook them for 6 to 8 hours to overnight. So that's kind of down the road. But we're starting with a vegetable stock, which will do a lot for you, and the basic ingredients that go into it. So I'm going to get you guys also, I've put a bunch of cutting boards over here. You guys are going to grab a paper towel, wet it a little bit, and there's room for one here.
No, he mentioned that no one should be here because of the cat.
Oh, okay. So we might end up with someone back here. I got a big cutting board, and I'll explain why in a minute. But we can all crowd in. It's okay. Yeah, we can all squeeze in together. I can move these ingredients if I need to. Potatoes. They're a little soft. They've been in my fridge at work for a while. I am what's called a CSA pickup, means community sponsored agriculture. So I'm a farm drop, basically, where people come and pick up local ingredients from a local farm.
Press the water out of it.
There you go. Bench scraper and a knife. There you go. Okay, so vegetable stocks. We're going to use our vegetable stock today in a soup. And it's just like a very basic vegetable soup, kind of a version of a minestrone. And it's just, so I've written there, soup, use what you have. It's just to show you how to use what's in your fridge. So kind of when you walk into, if you guys do, if you're interested in part-time work in restaurants, or in kitchens of any kind, it's really good to know how to make a soup. One of the jobs that beginners get, the first place you'll end up is dishwashing. Over here, we're going to go back to dishwashing later on. We looked at that last week, and actually a request, this is a big request from me at the end, we're all doing dishes together. Nobody leaves here and disappears until the dishes are done. And the cleanup is done. That's kind of at 6 o'clock. We're going to just clean up. If we all do it, it'll be 15 minutes and really quick. But I find people kind of wander off. But that's kind of like the work that you do for being here, is do the dishes. But we'll feed you a bowl of soup before you do. So veggie stock, this is a typical French veggie stock, and the ingredients going into it are always onions. So onions, I'm just going to do a recap. These guys did this with me last week. But when you're prepping an onion for chopping, you take the outside of this root off, but not the whole thing. I'll explain to you why in a minute. And then you take the stem end off, and then cut it in half through the root and peel it. And the peels, this can actually go in your stock pot. So this guy here is a stock pot. So it's a big aluminium stock pot. So I'm just going to throw my peelings in. And in this case, I'm not chopping this onion for anything else. I'm just using it for stock. But if I was chopping it, let's put this over here so you guys can all see. If I were chopping it for something else, I would still keep those peelings and throw it in my stock, throw them in my stock pot. In this case, I am using this onion for the stock. So it's a vegetable stock. A vegetable stock is going to cook for about 40 minutes. If I was doing a chicken stock, it would be 6 hours. A beef or veal stock might be 12 hours. So for my chicken and beef and veal stock, I'm going to cut my veggies big. because they're going to cook for a long time and I don't want them to break down. For a veggie stock, it's really quick, so I'm going to cut them smaller, and the size of the vegetables is to do with maximum extraction of flavors. So for my veggie stock, I'm going small, so I extract as much flavor as I can before my veggies fall apart. You don't want them to fall apart in a stock because it'll make it cloudy. One of the important things about stock is clarity. Again, this is very French, but if you picture what you're using a stock in, it's going to go into sauces, it's going to go into soups. If you have a clear stock, you end up with a clear sheen on any sauces you make with it. You end up, if it happens to be a stock-based soup, let's say chicken noodle for instance, you have a clear soup. It doesn't look kind of murky like dishwater. It's going to be nice and clear. So having your veggies not fall apart is really important for that. So in this case, I'm just going to tear off. Those are the outers. So when I'm using, yeah, you can do the other one. Thank you. So because I'm using this in stock, I'm going to show you. I showed everybody this last week, and everybody cut some onions. When you're cutting onions, you do this thing where you slice into it without going through the outside edge. If I was doing a fine dice, or a fairly fine dice, like these ones that we did last week, they're just defrosting here. So we chopped these last week, and the shallots here. I would do the cuts that I'm about to do now really close together. You're using your chef's knife, or you can use a smaller knife, and you're not quite going through the outside edge. Because it's for stock, I'm doing a chunkier dice. So I'm going into my onion like this. I could also use a smaller knife. So this guy here, my son gave me this one for Christmas. It's the same knife maker. This one needs to get sharpened. So I've done my lines. I'm going to do one more cut this way, which gives you, when you finish cutting it, a more even dice. And then you go this way. This is just a coarse dice, right? You could make this really fine. You go this way, and then you've got diced onion, okay? So I asked everybody last week, if you're cooking at home, practice dicing onions. Essential knife skill number one is knowing how to chop an onion. If you know this and you go into a kitchen setting, you want to work in a kitchen, it's huge if you know how to do this. So, but in our case, this is going into our stock pot. So when I make stocks, a veggie stock, I don't cook my veggies. They just all go raw into the pot, and then we cover them with water, and we're going to bring them up to a gentle boil and then just cook it for 40 minutes. So I'm going to give you that, and you're just going to cut it like I did. Then we didn't do any of these things last week, so I'm going to show you. Does anybody know what this is? Do you guys know what this vegetable is? Yeah, it's fennel. So when you're dealing with a fennel, you're going to take off the tops. We don't eat the tops. And they can go in your stock pot. So just kind of cut them up. And the fennel fronds can go in your stock pot. So I'm literally just kind of cutting up my fennel tops like so. Fennel has an anise flavor to it. I'm also, while I'm doing this, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to show you how to deal with a fennel very quickly. So if you were using a fennel for a salad, you would slice it in half that way. And then you take this. This is the core. You take out the core. So you go like this, chop it out. And then if I was using this for a salad, I would either use a mandolin or just slice it really thin like this. And this is kind of the next knife skill. Hello. Trent. Hi, Trent. Nice to meet you. My question for you, any allergies or food intolerances? Nothing? You eat everything? You eat pork? Everybody here eats pork, right? Everybody's good? Okay, cool. Okay, so we're not going to use this in our soup, but just to show you, I'm going to use bigger chunks. But later on, I want everybody to have a little taste of fennel. So I'm going to put it in a bowl and get you guys, just to give it a taste later on, because you'll have to wash your hands otherwise. There you go. From foot from mouth. It tastes like licorice. We use it in salads. and we call it the anise family of flavors. So that's fennel. But for my stock pot, I'm literally just gonna dice it into bigger pieces. I always put it into veggie stock because it adds that really interesting flavor of anise, of licorice. So that's gonna go into our stock pot here too. Then let's get Trent, let's get you a cutting board. So if you go over here, there's some cutting boards. You can come right next to me here. Let's turn this. And we're gonna sit it on a damp rag. And what that does is stops it from sliding around. So you're just gonna sit it on there. I'm using a big cutting board, just we don't have this many big ones. When I work at work, I always work on a big cutting board. Big bowls, big cutting boards, big knives, you have more control. You're more efficient, you can work faster if you have bigger equipment. Picture like mixing a cookie dough in a small bowl. You have to go really slow because it's small and it's gonna slop out. Same with cutting. If you have space to work, you're gonna be faster and more efficient. So I generally pick a bigger cutting board when I'm working. The other thing I should talk to you all about very quickly, because we talked a lot about hygiene last week. Trent, you've already washed your hands, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Is cross-contamination. Today we're mostly working with vegetables, except we are going to use some pancetta, which is an Italian bacon. But when you are dealing with vegetables, you're not as worried. But if we were dealing with meat, you need to be really careful of your cutting board that you don't cross-contamination something with raw meat. Cross-contamination is a big word in food hygiene. That you don't get contamination from any raw meat onto where you're prepping fresh produce or anything that's not going to be cooked. So we'll touch on that over the next 6 weeks. Not a huge issue today, but that's something we covered last week, and just keep that term in mind, cross-contamination. You can cause food poisoning, cross-contaminating from your cutting board, with your knives if you go from raw to fresh, with rags when you're cleaning up, if you use a rag or a sponge from something raw and then you go to something fresh. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so we've got fennel, we've got onion in here. Also into our stock, we always add carrots. And there's more carrots. We're going to add more into our soup too. So we can all actually chop some carrots and keep some separate. I'm going to show you how to chop them in what I call a brunoise. Does anybody know that term, brunoise? I'm going to write it up. Hang on. So. It's a very chefy term, and it really just means a square dice. So that with your onions is basically a brunoise, okay? So you can pop your brunoise of onion into the stock pot there, both of you. There you go. Perfect. And then with our carrots, some people don't peel them for the stock pot. I always do. I find the skin's a little bitter. When you're peeling, keep it down on your cutting board. There's one chef friend who's a restaurant owner of mine, gets really irritated when his new hires hold their carrots up like this. It's really inefficient. So if you do it on your cutting board like this, it's really, really fast. So you just turn it. Often we'll do that on a sheet pan, and then you can just carry your sheet pan over to the garbage. But that's how you peel. And then this is, again, bench scraper comes in useful, garbage. And then for a stock, I'm going to show you in a bit how to do a nice brunoise, which is a small dice. But for a stock, I'm not as fast. So for my veggie stock, I'm just going to cut it into smaller pieces. So I'm not trying to get them perfectly square. So this is not a brunoise. This is just diced, okay? Or rough chopped. So, like so. And you can see kind of just knife motion. When I'm using my knife, I'm keeping the tip of my knife down and I'm rolling it the whole time. We looked at this last week, but when you're holding a chef's knife, your hand is high up on the handle, your thumb is on one side of your blade and your first finger on the other side. And the motion when you're cutting is like this. The tip of your knife is down on your board and you're rolling it, kind of like a seesaw. And it's this part of your knife that you're cutting with. I'll show you again. This is where your pressure point on your knife is and where the weight is. So it's here. I get customers all the time want to cut from here. That's really inefficient. You're cutting from here. You can even hear the difference, right? If I'm doing this, it's like that doesn't do it. But here, you can kind of hear how efficient my knife is when I'm doing that, okay? So we'll do the carrots here. Those are going in the stock pot. We're not making a ton of stock. It's just a little bit to go into our soup that we're gonna make in a little bit. Also in stock, I've already washed all these veggies, guys. Celery. So trim off the bottoms. And I like to throw the leaves of celery into stock. They're super tasty. So our leaves go in. And then we are going to, again, it's for stock, so I'm not cutting it too small. I'm just going to cut it in half lengthways. This is my garbage. And again, just into a fairly big dice, okay? Stock pot. So the 3 ingredients we just put in there, onion, carrot, celery. Does anybody know what the French term for those 3 ingredients is? Doesn't matter, it's okay. They call it a mirepoix. And this is a term you'll run into a lot if you end up in kitchens. Sorry, my handwriting is horrendous. That's an M. A mirepoix, M-I-R-E-P-O-I-X. Carrots, celery, onion is the 3 vegetables that make up a mirepoix of vegetables, which is your base of all cooking in French and European cooking. The Italians will call it a sofrito. It's the same trio of ingredients. Spanish cooking, Creole cooking, they also have mirepoix or sofritos, but it's a different mix of vegetables, which you don't need to worry about right now. But that is quite important. In most restaurants, they'll talk to you about mirepoix. So go and prep the mirepoix for the day. Carrots, celery, onion, okay? So somebody can do this carrot too, peel, and somebody can do this. Here we go. And you guys know what, it's a leek. Yeah, this is a leek. Do you know how to deal with a leek, how to wash a leek? No? Okay, it's okay. So when you grow a leek, they mound soil up around them so that as much of the leek as possible is under soil, so it doesn't see the sun. So this white part of the leek is the tastiest part. It's been mounded under soil so the chlorophyll doesn't develop. So this part was sticking out of the earth. So this is kind of tough and bitter. It's okay in stocks, it's still a little tough and bitter. If I was doing like a braise of beef, I might throw these in, but I'm not gonna use it today. I'm gonna use the white and the light green of my leek. And what happens, it's mounded up in soil as it grows. As it grows, it pushes up through that earth, and you get earth inside all the layers of a leek. They're just a bit of a beast to wash. So you can either just cut it right in half and then go and wash it, or to make it easy to slice it, I'll show this in a minute. And we've got more leeks for our soup in a bit. If you take your knife and you start about 1 inch from the root end, just slice it in half like this. This isn't a very dirty one, but you can see it a bit. I've got layers of dirt in there. It's still attached at the root. You're gonna take it over to your sink and just fan it out under the tap just to wash the dirt out. Okay. We'll look at some more leeks in a bit. So I'm just going to give that a wash. And then to slice your leek now, I'm going to peel off the outer leaves. So I've now got it, it's kind of halved. I'm going to slice it into chunkier pieces. When we come to prepping our soup, we're going to do a fine slice. But what we're going to do with our leeks, once you cut it like this, because I've already halved it, it comes out into half moons like that. So this is really nice for sauteing if you've got it thinly. So that's a leek. So our leeks are going into our stock pot. And then all of this, the fennel I would not put in a chicken or a beef stock, but I do in a vegetable stock for extra flavor. Mushrooms, again, I would not put in a chicken or a beef stock, but in vegetable, you're trying to get a lot more vegetables for flavor. Nothing starchy in here. None of the brassicas, because they go really bitter. You don't want bitterness. So no potatoes, no corn, no broccoli, no cauliflower. You want to think of flavorful vegetables that don't go bitter. So if anybody thinks of a vegetable that you might put in a stock, ask me and I'll tell you yes or no. I think I'm using most of the ones that I would use. But mushrooms for sure. These are creminies.
Spinach.
Say?
Spinach.
No, because it's gonna make your stock go really dark green that cooks too fast. It's gonna disintegrate, it's gonna make it go cloudy. Good question though. I love spinach, not in stock. Mushrooms, I haven't washed them yet. Generally with mushrooms, you don't wanna wash them straight in water. The gills pick up a lot of water and they get a bit waterlogged. In this case, they're going in stock, it doesn't matter. But if I was gonna saute them, I would take a cloth, wet it, and clean them like this. Just literally wipe them off. With wild mushrooms, I use a brush, like a mushroom brush, or you can use a pastry brush, because you'll get dirt all in here. These are cultivated, so you don't tend to get dirt in the same way. But wild mushrooms, they tend to grow around like pine trees and in sandy soil, and they're filthy. So you don't want to waterlog them. They're really expensive. So you use a brush and brush them clean, and then just a damp paper towel and do that. In this case, it's not such a big deal, because they're going into the stock pot. So I'll just go and rinse them all in a minute. But just to show you, just for the soup, I'm just going to quarter them, but just trim off the end. The ends get a bit nasty. And then just take your mushroom, quarter it for stock, like so.
That's all.
Yeah, this is for stock. That's all you got to do. So yeah, give those a wash and do the same. They need to be washed. Yeah, they do need to be washed. I haven't washed them. So there's a sink over there, Ruki. And I'll wait till you come back to continue. She knows about the garlic. I bought peeled garlic for us. I buy a lot of local ingredients. At the same time, I don't want you guys to spend your time peeling garlic. So I bought us peeled garlic. Some garlic, just whole, into our pot. So there's that. Just gonna grab from over here. Do you guys know what these are? Bay leaves, bay leaves. They go into all stocks. So, bay leaves, just 2 or 3 bay leaves, a few bay leaves. There we go, we'll put them here. And you guys used fresh thyme before? This is fresh thyme. I'll pass a piece around, rub it in your face. I use this a lot. Fresh thyme is a lovely herb. Herbs add tons of flavor. Just pass it around and everybody have a little smell of some fresh thyme. It's what I call a robust herb. It stands up to cooking. We're going to look at basil in a little bit. Basil is not a robust herb. You add it at the end of cooking because it loses its flavor. But fresh thyme, if you've ever heard of butter-basted steaks, when I did these for my Valentine's class last night, they made steak Diane, sorry, old-fashioned, but they butter-basted ribeye steaks in cast iron. When you're butter-basting steak, it's fresh thyme, garlic, and butter. Fresh thyme gets used a lot. So in your stock pot, you just throw whole sprigs in, like so. So I like to use lots of it, so fresh thyme, like There we go. And we're also going to use it in our soup in a little bit. When you are working, if you're cutting board, just so you can keep reusing it, you are just every now and then going to scrape down your cutting board into the garbage so you keep your cutting board clean. Okay? Then the other thing going into our stock, it's not the parsley, it's the parsley stalks. They have lots and lots of flavor. So we'll use our parsley in our soup in a bit and we'll look at how to chop it. But for now, I'm going to take the stalks and throw them all into my stock pot. I don't think they compost here. If you were composting, actually paper towel can go in your compost, but that can't. All of this could get composted. Where I work, I don't think, the city of Edmonton started composting, but they're not doing it in like apartment buildings and businesses. I don't know why. My business, MacEwan University is my landlord. It's a weird location. I'm located in their residence building and they don't compost. It drives me nuts. But anyway, so if at home, compost all this stuff, yeah? If you have composting where you live. So these parsley stalks, I keep them when I'm chopping parsley at work and I freeze them if I'm not using them because tons of flavor. You don't add the leaves because they disintegrate and go a little bit cloudy. Yeah, there's leaves clinging to those stalks. I could pick them all off. I'm not that stressed about it, but the stalks are going in. So we'll come back to these for our soup. But that now is pretty much everything I need for a stock. And then we're going to cover it with water and bring it to a boil. So the next thing about stock, if I had peppercorns, I don't see any peppercorns in here, so I would normally add some peppercorns too, but I can't see any. I'll have to bring some. I don't see any. Do you see peppercorns? Yeah, no, that's ground. You wouldn't put ground, and that's spicy. You would use black peppercorns in this. I don't see any. So it's no big deal, it's okay. So we're now gonna cover it with water by about 2 inches and then turn it on, bring it up to a boil. But once it hits the boil, we're gonna turn it down because your stock should never boil. They should simmer, and that's back to that word, clarity. So I'm just gonna write this here. So with our stocks, what we're looking for is clarity. Nice, clear stock, okay? So the way we get that is to make sure our veggies don't overcook and we don't boil it hard. If you boil it hard, everything gets shaken up and it goes cloudy. So I'm just gonna fill this with water. There we go. Do any of you make stocks at home ever? No? Okay. Okay. I make them a lot. Okay. So that is our veggie stock. There you go. Ready to go. Okay. This is what I do at work. Yeah, where I'm just to sell yourself. It's constant social media. Like we constantly are taking videos of what we do. It's ridiculous. I think half of your job as a business owner is social media these days. It's like I'm doing TikTok now. Is anybody on TikTok? Ugh. I hate it, but anyway, so you can go and find me on TikTok. Okay, so we're gonna turn this on high, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. Just a word of warning, these ovens and stoves are really, really slow. They're really slow. So everything is gonna take us longer than I wish it would. This is gonna take an age to come up to a boil. So what I might do, is put a lid on it. If you put a lid on something, it's going to come to a boil faster, but we'll not forget it. Oh, mushrooms. In go the mushrooms, guys. Just bring your mushrooms over here and then pop the lid on. It's on high. So, and then we are going to clean up from our stock. So I'm going to pass around the garbage bowl and you guys can just all scrape up what's on your cutting boards into the garbage bowl here. and then we're going to talk about soup, and we're going to prep some ingredients for it. So, we need the stock. So we're going to do all our prep, and our prep, I'm going to write another term on the board. Does anybody know the restaurant term for getting all of your prep and organization done is? Anybody, there's a term we use. Anybody know it? That's it, mise en place. Do you know what it means? No. Literal translation from French is everything in its place. And if you were going into work in a prep, doing prep in a kitchen, you'd go in before they're open, before you start cooking for customers generally. So you go in and everything gets set up for the day in your mise en place. So you chop your mirepoix, you chop everything, you make your sauces, you make everything that's ready to go in the restaurant so that when service starts, service is basically when you're starting to cook for people, when they've made their orders. Once you start service, you've got everything, you'll have it all in little containers. So let's say I'm making what we made last night, which was steak Diane. So our ribeye steaks would be perfectly trimmed. We'd have our salt and pepper. Our butter for cooking, for butter basting would be diced and kept cold. My sprigs of fresh thyme that I would use for my butter basting would be picked. My garlic cloves would be out. Then we made a pan sauce. So, and into my pan sauce went chopped shallots like these. So I'd have my chopped shallots there ready to go. We had chopped garlic. My chopped garlic would be ready to go. We had chopped thyme. We'd have that ready to go. I used actually oxtail stock, so we'd have that out. Whipping cream out that I finished my sauce with. Mustard, in it went mustard, soy sauce, and Worcestershire sauce. Those would all be out, mixed together, ready to go, and that's your mise en place. So it's everything ready for cooking your dish. And in a professional setting, it's really important to do that because then you are fast when you come to actually cooking, because it's fast and intense when you're in service in a restaurant. So that prep, the mise en place, is really, really important that it's done efficiently, it's all done, and then when you're cooking for service, it's boom, 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 you're done. So I'm just going to write that term up. These are all terms you will hear a lot. I mean, they're French terms, but they're used pretty widely in restaurants. There's a lot of French stuff you don't need to know, but these are terms you're going to run into a lot. So this is mise, it's 3 words, and then en place. So mise means everything, en, in, and then place, place, everything in its place. Okay? En français. So, right now, we're doing mise en place for a really basic soup, but it's a tasty soup. So, let's put our garbage back here. We've already got, from last week, we've got onions. So this is also like I put up there, use it up. It's a use it up soup. So I've got onions and shallots that I pulled out of the freezer. We're gonna start, oops, I'm making a mess. We're gonna start our soup with these onions and shallots and use them up. So when you're looking, this might be staff dinner, or it might be soup of the day. Good chefs are really good at going into their fridge and looking at what needs to be used and moving it into specials or into staff meals. So we chopped these last week, they're left over. They need to get used, so they're either gonna go into our staff meal or into our soup or your specials. So when you go to restaurants, the service staff will often try and sell you the special. I often don't order the special because it's them using up what they got. So I will usually, thank you, I will usually pick off the menu. But often it's a chance to get creative too, but just that is what you want to do. And at home, the same thing. If you learn to cook intuitively with the ingredients that you have and use stuff up, we have a huge problem in North America of food waste. And a lot of it is that stuff is sitting in our fridges and we don't know what to do with it. And we're so slavishly attached to recipes, we won't just cook with what we've got. I really encourage people to sometimes put the recipes away, get your ingredients out and just cook. Having a few skills and understanding flavor combinations and techniques really helps with that. But a soup is a great way to use up what's in your fridge. So we're using this up. And then we're going to use our mirepoix. That's our onion. So we're going to use lots of celery. I bought one bunch of celery. I don't want any going to waste. For my soup, I'm not going to use these are all washed. I washed these when I got in. I'm not going to use the leaves. So I will keep the leaves, put them in the fridge, and keep them for the next stock that we make. So I'm going to set all these celery tops aside or freeze them, and those will go in a stock. Okay? But now I'm going to show you how to dice celery into a brunoise. If you pass me one of those plastic trays over there, Trini, right? Trini? Okay. This is just stuff we're going to freeze for future stocks, okay? So we'll just put this over here. So, this term brunoise, I'm going to set up also. We'll make the soup here. So I'm going to put my mise en place for soup making here. One of the first things we're going to use is going to be our onions. So they're sitting there. We're also going to get bay leaves into our soup. The first thing we're going to cook is pancetta, but we need stock. Okay, this did not want to wash off, so I'm just going to trim that, and I'm going to show you guys how to. Brunoise Superstore had some mucky looking celery today. So when you're dealing with celery, I usually cut it, depending on the length of it, in half, just so it's manageable. Then for a brunoise of celery, what you're going to do is cut it into strips. It's one of the easiest. And in a soup, I want to see nice little pieces of my vegetables, and I want them ideally all to be the same size. They're going to be cut into this brunoise, which is just a nice, small, square little dice. If you see my non-cutting hand, I am rolling back my fingers. I'm not always really good about this, which is why I cut part of my thumb off at work recently. But roll your fingers back. They act as a knife guard, and we're going to cut our celery into this nice little dice, guys, okay? Like so. That is a brunoise of celery. That's a bigger brunoise. You can make it smaller. So I'll show you, as my piece of celery gets smaller towards the end, I cut this part into 3. I'm going to cut this part into 2, just to keep the size the same. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just cutting it into this nice little dice, okay, for our soup. So we are sharing celery. There we go. Okay, everybody's going to cut some celery, and we're going to put that in a bowl, a prep bowl. I put a bunch of bowls behind us. And our celery and our carrot can be combined, because generally celery and carrot will go into anything you're cooking at the same time, usually. They cook at the same pace, guys, okay? There you go. So that is how you dice celery for whether it's a salad or whatever, or for a stew or a soup. That's our brunoise, okay? Carrots. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Okay, so carrots. We'll just wait till you've all done your celery. Thank you. We've got more carrots also, so I think everybody should do a carrot. Where did I put them? Oh, thank you. Yeah, everybody should do a carrot. I already washed these ones, so if you got one out of the bag, just give it a quick wash, guys, before you start it. So there are more peelers in that box over there. So I showed you how to peel, right? Keep it on your cutting board. You're just turning it. There you go.
She said we should wash it, right?
Yeah, I would give it a wash. I would give it a wash. And just going to wait till everybody's back, and I'm going to show you how to deal with this. We're kind of getting back to our mirepoix for the base of our soup too. Onions, celery, carrot. We're just cooking a bit differently. Yeah, is that coming up to a boil yet?
Kinda.
Oh, good. Okay, let's have a look.
It's almost there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's trying. Something I didn't touch on, no salt. Store-bought stocks are salty. Stocks should never have salt in them. Homemade ones, you never put salt in. It comes back to what I said, that a stock is a foundation. You want to add salt to your finished dish, never to stock. Stock is an ingredient, so it should be unsalted. If you ever look at a recipe that tells you to salt stock, ignore it. It's wrong. Don't do it. Okay, so brunoise of carrot. What we're going to do is top and tail it, and just like we did with the celery, I'm going to cut it in half so it's manageable. Then I'm going to show you a slightly wasteful thing, which you don't have to do, but it's called squaring off, and I would certainly do one side. I've just cut off a slice, so now my carrot is stabilized. It's got a square side, so it sits flat on my cutting board. So when I'm slicing it, it's not rolling around. So this I call squaring off, and these pieces we can actually throw, these little trimmings, we can throw like that too into our stock pot. And then if you're going to be really precise, you can actually square the whole carrot off, but it is a little wasteful. You can cut it into a rectangle like that. Now I've got a pretty much squared off piece of carrot, like so. So I've trimmed it into a rectangle. And then you can cut your this is to do our brunoise. You can cut your rectangle. This is going to end up slightly smaller than my carrot because I'm just trying to, it's a small carrot just to show you how to do this. You can do it bigger than this. So I've cut it into slices, and now I've cut it into strips. This is too small. And then you do your dice, okay? So that's how you get a square dice of carrot. But if it is a little rounded, it's okay. I'd rather have it a little rounded than wasting a lot of carrot. But if you were working in a fancy French restaurant, you would totally square off your carrots and cut them into perfect little brunoise cubes. You guys all good with this? You're all okay? Knife skills are fun. I find prep, like chopping, very, very relaxing. I love going into work on my own, turning on my music really loud and just standing there and chopping. It's very, very, I don't know, I find it very meditative. Yeah, so you're gonna take, then this way, exactly.
I didn't remove anyone.
That's okay, you're good. So yours are a little, they're rounded, but it's fine, okay? So they're not a perfect little square, but that's okay. No stress, no worries. With this one, again, I'm squaring it off. So I'm always square off at least one side, and I'm gonna take this one into a slightly bigger brunoise in half and half. And it's not a perfect shaped carrot, so it's not gonna be perfectly square, and that's okay, because nature made the carrot, not a chef. So, yeah, I totally can. Thanks, hon. Thanks, KJ. There you go. Okay. Sorry?
This is it, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's squared off. And then you cut it into slices. I would do 3 out of that one. Yeah, there you go. 3 slices. And then you cut your slices into 2 or 3 lengths or strips. There you go. 2 is good. And then you dice it. And then you've got perfectly square, right? And it's a visual. In like a bolognese sauce or soup or whatever, where you see it, it's just a visual. It looks good. There you go. Sweet. So we've now prepped what I'm calling my mirepoix for our soup. We've got our onions and shallot. We've got our celery and carrots. These are the first things that are going to go into this soup, apart from pancetta. So I picked up a little pancetta at the Italian Center. didn't get very much because actually, yeah, you can do it, totally do it. But then that's enough, we're good. I didn't get very much because actually Nader, who's not here this week, doesn't eat pork. So I didn't get very much because I was gonna do some with pork and some without. But since everybody's good with bacon, right? We're all good? Okay, so this is pancetta. You can buy it pre-sliced. Most supermarkets will sell it. It's bacon, so it's from the belly of the pig. It's just bacon, but pancetta is cured a bit differently to bacon, so it's a drier cure. They cure it like they cure prosciutto, and I use it a lot in. It's an Italian ingredient. I use it a lot for flavor in soups and stews, as long as I don't have somebody who doesn't eat pork. And a lot of our customers don't eat pork. There's a lot of people who don't. So if you ever end up catering or cooking, whatever, just make sure. That's a big one to ask, is do people eat pork? Because lots of people don't. But what I'm gonna do with it, so I'm gonna give Ruki the other slice, and then we'll have to wash these 2 cutting boards because they've got pork on them, and I'm gonna have to wash my knife. We are going to also dice this. So I'm gonna show you a cut that's called a lardon. You slice it like this. And this, when you're dealing with pancetta in French culinary terms, they would call that a lardon because you have meat, fat, meat, fat, meat, fat. And in French, in the French culinary world, they use this as a garnish. So it goes onto salads, it goes into coq au vin, it goes on beef bourguignon. They'll saute it up so it's nice and crispy and golden. It goes onto like a lot of French salads. And you've got this kind of lardon of bacon. But for our soup, we'll just dice it. Actually, no, you know what? We will. We'll do our lardons. Let's do lardons. And we're going to render this off. Do you know what I mean by render? Do you guys know what the word render means? Yeah, basically, but it's for fat. It's with fat. So rendering is when you're cooking anything that's fatty to get the fat off it. So it could be duck breasts, it could be this, it could be chicken fat. Rendering it is basically to melt the fat. So when I'm dealing with bacon in cooking, I tend to cook it at the start because the flavor's in the fat. Bacon or pancetta fat has a lot of flavor. And it's the first thing that's gonna hit my pot. I'm gonna render off the fat and then cook my mirepoix in the pancetta fat because it's full of flavor. It's also gonna caramelize into my pan. So pancetta or bacon fat is really sticky. It's gonna leave a lovely gunky brown caramelization in the pan, and that's flavor. It also gets called, back to that word, fond. You call caramelization in a pot fond. It's a stock, it's also the caramelized stuff that sticks in your pan, and it's flavor, it's really important. So if you're making sauces, you want to get caramelized stuff in your pan. So let's say, back to what I cooked last night with my class, our steaks with a pan sauce. We caramelized our steaks in a hot pan, got lots of caramelized meat in that cast iron pan, then deglazed it with onions, which are acidic, but also brandy. But you don't need to use alcohol. Anything acidic will deglaze to pull our caramelization off our pan. So today we're not using alcohol. We're just using bacon fat, caramelized in our pan, then we'll deglaze it with onions. They're acidic, they'll pull the caramelization off our pan. So I'm gonna start cooking the soup. We'll come back, there's more stuff we gotta prep, but let's start cooking it so that we don't, what time are we at? Yeah, we're already at 5:15, the time disappears. So we're gonna start cooking it. I'm gonna get a pot, what shall I use? Let's use, I'm gonna wash my hands because I got bacon fat on before I do anything else. And then we're gonna do a recap for those of you who weren't here on the dishwashing sinks. It's boiling? Okay, you can take the lid off, Trent. And thank you. And thank you for keeping an eye on it. That's also, oh, you okay? Yeah, use your, okay. So we're gonna turn it down. Do you need, are you badly burned?
No, it's just hot.
So we're gonna do something, we're gonna put, actually they have oven mitts here somewhere. Where did I see them? Here. Okay, you okay? Because you can run it under tepid water if it's
fine.
It's okay?
It's just a little hot.
Okay. Aluminium like this gets really hot. So this is boiling. I'm turning it down. You can give it a little mix. There are spoons here if you want to. And this will be ready in 40 minutes. We'll probably use some of it sooner than that. And we'll freeze what we don't use today. So the pancetta, we're gonna gather up and we're gonna get into a cold pot, which I will explain in a second. So, if you guys take that from me. Okay. So, I'm gonna get my cold pancetta into a cold pan. Ruki's gonna do the same. And then all of the equipment that touch bacon we're gonna clean. But first, cold pan. This is so you render off the fat before your pancetta gets crispy. If I had it on a high heat now, it would go brown before I've rendered the fat, but I want that fat in my pot, so I start cold. And then I'm gonna turn the heat on. That guy. I know these run really low, so I'm gonna turn it on quite high. We'll get a spoon ready. This guy is actually going a little too high. We're turning it down. It's okay. We're pushing it anyway because of the time. And then over here, use your ears when you're cooking. When I hear it start to sizzle, and Trent's really good at keeping an eye, so Trent's gonna keep an eye on this too. So we want to see that the fat's starting to melt off. I'm on high. Normally at home, at work, I've got gas, which isn't highly recommended anymore. I would switch to induction if I could, probably. But I would be on a lower temperature and then turning it up once I see the fat starting to melt. Just because this stove, I'm on high, and then I'll turn it down once we've got some heat under the pot. Clean up. This cross-contamination thing. I haven't spread bacon fat here, but it's on my knife. It was on the bench scraper. It's on my cutting board. Knives. This is a recap again from last week. Do not ever put knives in the sink. Put them on the side of the sink where whoever's dishwashing can see them. If they go in the sink, whoever's dishwashing is going to have a nasty injury. They're going to put their hands in. It's soapy, you can't see the knives. So keep the knives separately where you can see them. My knife, this is a $600 knife. I hand wash it, so nobody else washes my knife unless I know what they're doing with it. So, and that's just because I do this for a living. So it's like my one really expensive knife. So, so I take care of it. It doesn't sit on the edge of the sink. And if you guys all come over here, Ruki was here last week and she knows, but Ruki is not gonna do the dishes today, somebody else is, because she did them last time. So when we're finished today, somebody else or a couple of you are gonna do the dishes and the rest of us are gonna dry up and put away. But what she's doing here is filling the sink with soapy water. This is what we call a 3-sink system, except there's only 2 sinks. So it basically goes soapy water to rinse water to sanitizer, which is the dishwasher, or you have a sink with bleach or sani in it, which sanitizes. I'm not going to talk to you a lot about that because it's a recap. We'll do it again next week. But all of this, we need to wash. She's using hot water. You want really hot water when you're doing this because the knives are kept on the side. Hot water for sanitizing it properly. Ruki, there's gloves. Don't burn your hands.
Yeah.
Guys, you want to, the gloves are over here, hun. So you want to wear gloves when you're dishwashing here, guys, okay? That is a left. These are all a bit small, I'm afraid. And I meant to bring you gloves and put your names on them. At work, everybody has their own set of gloves because it's kind of gross, and we Sharpie your names on it. But we're sharing gloves here. They're pretty clean. This is a pretty clean little kitchen. I can hear. That's my knife, hun, so you know the deal. Can somebody stay and help Ruki clean this and dry this? Over here, my pancetta, I'm turning it back down. So, pancetta here, move it off the heat for a minute. It's looking glossy, that's what pancetta does. That's really good. And the fat's starting to run, so I'm turning it down. I just pulled it off for a minute. I don't have a lot of control over this stove. It's just, it gets hot and then it takes a while to cool down, so. There we go.
Probably the light, probably this one.
I think that's lights.
I think that's lights.
Yeah,
It feels like a master light switch. Feels like a master light switch. Okay, so we're just letting the fat melt off. I don't know how much fat we'll get off of this, but a bit. And like I said to you, fat's flavor. So once it is rendered, that glassiness I'm looking for, I can start the fat starting to run. Once I've got a nice bit of fat rendered off, I'll turn it up, I'll crisp the pancetta, and then I'll take the pancetta out of the pan and set it aside, and we'll add it back to our soup later on. And then we'll get our onions in there and cook them in the pot here until they've collapsed down. Meanwhile, our stock is simmering away. I turned it right down. Turn it back up again. Okay. So I'm gonna grab the same cutting board or another cutting board. Just a capful, hun, not too much. Guys, there's bleach in this sink for sanitizing, so whatever you do, don't put your hands in there without gloves on, okay? You can get terrible rashes from dish sanitation, so don't do it. But here, I'm just gonna, you just gotta dunk. If you do that for me. You just dunk it. We call this sani once it's Ruki poured some bleach into there. So you just call that, it's sani. So if somebody says to dunk it in the sani, it's that sink, it's the sanitizing sink. Okay. Oh, the other thing that we touched on last week, let's give this one to Ruki, was culinary kind of lingo. When you're in the kitchen, if you're carrying something behind somebody, say behind, it's really important. If I'm walking behind you and you're prepping around corners, you say corner. If you're coming around a corner, behind, you say behind. If you've got something heavy, you say heavy. Just warn people, because often in a kitchen, you're focused on what you're doing. If you step backwards and somebody is behind you, or you can say hot if you've got something really hot, but just to warn people so they know what's behind them, what's coming around the corner. Yeah, that stuff's really important. Thanks, guys. And then we'll just leave the sinks full like this. Thanks, Liam. Yeah, I'll take it. It's okay. Thank you. Thanks so much. Just shake it off. Okay. I'm okay with it being a bit wet. All right. Now, pancetta. I turned it down. I'm going to turn it back up a little bit. And that's salt. We're going to get a little plate. Go. And a slotted spoon. So I'm going to turn this up slightly And I'm gonna brown my pancetta and then get it onto a little plate and set it aside. And then right away, I'll get my onions in there. I'm gonna have to add some olive oil. There's not enough fat, but there is some bacon fat, and there's some nice kind of sticky bacon stuff on the pot, which is what you want. It's good. So we're just gonna take these until they're crisp, and then we'll use them as a garnish on our soup. Then we'll get the rest of our soup cooking, and then we're also gonna, thank you, love, we're gonna make a pesto to put on our soup, and we're gonna make it in a mortar and pestle. So we're just watching bacon cook for a minute because I can't walk away from it. So you just want to take it till it's nice and kind of golden. We're getting there. You can see I've got, I don't know, like a few tablespoonfuls of pancetta fat happening. There we go. And out that comes onto a plate or something. And then, can somebody see, I put a bottle of olive oil. It's like a Western Family's olive oil. It's, do you see it over there? Yeah, there you go. Thanks, KJ. Just bring me the olive oil, love. So we're jumping back and forth a bit between prep and cooking, just because of the time constraint. So, as I said, restaurant setting, you've done your mise en place. We're multitasking because we've got 2 hours to do all of this, okay? So, my fat is melted. I'm gonna add some olive oil because there's not enough fat in this pan to get my soup started. So I'm adding some olive oil to it, and in goes my onions and shallot that I had left over. It's frozen, so it's a little wet, that's okay. And at this point, I'm starting to cook the first ingredient that's hitting my pot. I'm gonna add some salt. Every ingredient I add, I'll talk to you about the salt too in a bit. I'm using a kosher salt that I'll show you. But every ingredient you add, you're gonna add some salt to flavor it slowly as you cook. In the case of the onions, it's also gonna bring the juices out. These were frozen, so they're quite wet, so you're gonna see a lot of water come out. We're gonna cook off the water. They won't brown until the water's cooked off. So I've turned it right up just to cook out the wetness of them. And then we'll turn them down once they start to sizzle, but you can see how wet they are. So that's the first thing that we're cooking. And in a lot, you guys know this, in a lot of cooking, you start with your onions. So in are the onions. I like to stick my spoons there. My salt is there by my side. And this we'll put by the dish sink. When you're putting something in, we call it in dish, or in, a lot of restaurants will call their dish area the dish pit. Just scrape it out. We actually, in our kitchen, we have a big garbage can next to the dishwashing sinks, and we just scrape stuff out. So you'll usually see that in a dish pit, a garbage bin here, and you just clean stuff out as you go. Okay, so onions are going. The next thing that we're gonna add is our carrots and celery, and also to this soup, I'm gonna add some fresh thyme. So to get fresh thyme leaves, everybody can take a sprig of thyme. And over here, you are just gonna clean your cutting board. So the way you do that, just take your bench scraper and just like that, okay? So you got a nice clean surface to work on. So everybody's gonna take some fresh thyme, and with fresh thyme, the little top is kind of tender, so if you try and do what I'm about to do with the top, it'll fall off. But from about an inch down, you can run your fingers backwards against the stem and your leaves come off. And then the top is really tender, so you can pick the top leaves. And if you get a bit of stem in, it doesn't matter. But as you go down the stem, it's really woody, and you don't want that in your food. And then once you have got a little bit of fresh thyme, you're gonna chop it. And that can go in with your onions. I think I mentioned to you that fresh thyme is a robust herb, so we can cook it out from fairly early in whatever we're cooking. Herbs are full of essential oils and nutrients, so and tons of flavor. So I've said there, the third thing under soup, use what you have, add flavor. Use lots of herbs in your cooking. They're really good for you and they add tons of flavor. So fresh thyme is great in soup. So I'm gonna borrow your bench scraper, and the little bit of thyme I've got here, I'm gonna add to my onions in my pot. I stole your bench scraper. And there's still, the water's cooking off these. They're just sweating down. Then the next ingredient I want to show you, which will go in with our onions, but you don't add this ingredient too soon, and everybody is going to do 1 clove of garlic. We looked at how to do this last week. I'm going to show you again. We're going to smash our garlic with salt. So you can put it straight in with the onions and give it a stir love. There you go. With garlic burns really easily, so you never add it at the start with onions, and lots of recipes will tell you to do that. That is a mistake because it'll burn. Even mixing with onions or garlic will burn. So add it when your onions are cooked, before you add, usually before you add something wet. So we're gonna add it actually after our carrots and celery, but we're gonna prep it now. So I'm taking a pinch of salt and I'm adding it to my garlic, and I'm gonna smash my clove of garlic by just smashing my hand down on my knife. And then I'm using, my salt is abrasive, and so it's like sandpaper. So it helps you it helps you crush your garlic. It also behaves chemically with garlic, and it pulls the essential oils out. So when you use your knife like this with salt and garlic, I'm using my 2 fingers just to really put some pressure on it. You get kind of a paste of garlic like that. Okay, you can also grate it, you can chop it. There's lots of different ways, but to make a paste of garlic, that's what you can do. If you're doing a huge amount, just throw it in a food processor. But for a small amount, this is a really useful technique. When you smash garlic like this, it's really strong in flavor. It's stronger than if you chopped it or grated it. So just keep that in mind. But that is how you puree very easily with salt garlic. And then we'll all just combine our garlic, and it's going to go in a little bit later. We're not ready for it yet, okay? So everybody, the thyme can go straight into the soup, into the onions. There you go. And then everybody do a garlic clove and then add it to mine here. Then I'm going to wash potatoes. No, you know what? Let's do leeks next. So you already know what to do with the leeks. So I'm giving you guys leeks. You're going to throw away the greens. A couple of you are going to wash them. Who else? There you go. My 2 guys who were here last week are going to do this. So you're going to cut off the greens, slice it in half. So you're going to trim off
right here.
Yeah, about there. Exactly. There you go. And then that goes in the garbage, the greens. There you go. And then you're going to cut it in half, exactly like that, KJ. Exactly. There you go. There you go. And if you actually, yeah, there you go. Exactly. Except, it doesn't matter. We don't have a root on this one, but that's okay. You're going to wash it under. Usually you would slice it. Again? Put your tip, no, you're good. You would put your tip in, I'll show it to you. You would have, the root was here. I think we've cut the root off. You would start your knife when you're slicing it in half here, not here, because the dirt is more all up here, okay? It's totally fine. So you guys are gonna wash that. Oops, onions. Our onions are starting to dry out here. They were wet. We're gonna get our leeks in with our onions next, actually. I said carrot and celery. We're actually, our onions, leeks. Do you guys know the term allium? Anybody know the term allium? It's just the generic term for the onion family. It's onions, leeks, green onions, shallots. Garlic are also in the allium family. So all of our kind of alliums we're going to get in. So our leeks are going to go in with our onions here. write that down. Allium. Okay. All right. Yeah. And then you're going to slice it thinly this time. Yeah. And then you're going to get it with your bench scraper and you're going to take it over to the onions and cook it with the onions. There you go. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. It's a little, can you see it's a little chunky? Yeah. So if you just, yeah, it's cool. It's always this way when you've never done it before. If you just put a little more pressure, see you're almost there, just a little bit more and it's done. Yeah? Ta-da, done. Let's move these out of the way. And let's just add these to our stock pot. Yeah, straight into here, hon. There you go. And Ruki, you're going to do the same. Here, let's give you. There you go. We'll save on dishes. We'll share bench scrapers. So, so now we've added leeks to our onions and shallots. So we've got 3 members of the allium family starting our soup. We've got shallots, onions, and leeks. All different flavors. So we're going to get lots of lovely different layers of flavor in here. And as I mentioned earlier, everything I add a pinch of salt. So you're gonna go and add a little pinch of salt, Ruki, into there. And I'm just lightly softening the leeks. So we're seeing, do you guys know the term to sweat versus the term to saute? I talked to you guys about this. Do you know what I mean when I say to sweat? Okay, you're cooking at a relatively low heat for softness. You're softening without trying to color, as opposed to sauteing or frying where you're trying to get color. So what we've been doing here is really sweating our vegetables. We're softening them, and the leeks soften really quickly. So we are now ready to add into there carrots and celery. So in they go. And with our carrots and celery, more salt. So I'm going to take a pinch of salt, and I haven't got the garlic in there yet. Pinch of salt. And if it starts to look too dry, add more fat. So in this case, it would be olive oil. So we'll just keep an eye on it. You could add butter if you wanted to too. So there we go. So what else are we going to put in this soup? I had potatoes at work. They're a little soft, but they're good. I'm going to pick through them. They came from a local farm before Christmas, and they've been sitting in my fridge at work. So I went and picked them up and brought them in. They're really nice locally grown new potatoes. So I'm going to pick out the shaggy ones and wash the rest. So this is using up what needed to be used up. I'm going to give them a quick wash, guys. And we're going to cut these into a brunoise too. We're going to cut them into small pieces so they cook fast. So the potatoes, I'm going to cut them into, so I squared it off again, into, again, sort of into little brunoise. I'm keeping the skin on because the skin has tons of flavor. You don't have to cut them as small as this if you don't want. These are what I call waxy potatoes. They'll hold their form. They're not going to fall apart. So I'm going to cut them again into nice little dice. And there, after the garlic, the next thing that's going to go into my soup. I cut those pretty small. You don't have to cut them that small, but there you go. Kind of like that, guys, okay? And the last thing, does anybody know what type of cabbage this is? This is called a Savoy cabbage. It gets used a lot in French cooking. I'm from the UK. We use these a lot in England. I love them. They're really flavorful. But you could use green cabbage. I use these a lot. So I wanted to show you. I just peeled off the outer leaves. I want to show you in a second how to prep cabbage, but finish your potatoes and then we'll get the potatoes into the soup. We don't necessarily have to use all of that potato, but we can. So my veggies are cooking out. I'm gonna give my stock a little taste, see how it's doing. These are tasting spoons. So these are all clean. When you taste something, when you're done with it, put it down into this one and we know it's dirty, okay? So I'm gonna take these over to my stock and just try it, see how it's doing. I added a lot of water, so it's gonna not be hugely flavor, but we should taste some flavor in it. Actually, it tastes pretty good. Anybody who wants to try the stock, go for it. Don't burn your mouth, it's hot. And then we will gather up all our potatoes and we'll add them. Let's put this away. Do you guys know what these are? I brought these from work too. Yeah, it does. They're Parmesan rinds. So yeah, but it's the rinds. So here's a piece of Parmesan that I bought. We're gonna make a pesto and we're gonna grate this and use it. But when we grate it, I'll show you now. Try. Yeah, the rind. It's going to go into our soup. So this is about adding flavor. So whenever you grate Parmesan, this is a really expensive cheese, keep the rind. So these are ones that were sitting in my fridge at work. They're going to go into the soup and they're going to add a ton of flavor. Count how many you add because we're going to pull them out. You don't want to eat this. They're in there for flavor, so they'll kind of melt away. So you can use them in sauces, anything that kind of Parmesan's going to come near, use the rinds in it. So in different kind of pasta sauces, soups, that kind of thing, it's really nice to use your Parmesan rinds. They sell them at the Italian Center, which is just silly. Just grate your own cheese. So I've got a setup for grating cheese over there. We'll do that afterwards because we're gonna, once this is cooking, we're gonna quickly make a pesto to serve on our soup to add more flavor. So the cheese though adds lots of flavor. Do you guys know the term umami? What does it mean?
I don't know what it means, but I don't think
That's okay.
I heard it before.
Very important term. It is the fifth flavor. So you've got, can somebody get those veggies a stir for me too? You've got bitter, sweet, sour, and salty. So we all know what those are, right? But then we have umami. So umami is the fifth flavor. Sorry, this is like a brain fart on this board. So it's just kind of, I'm throwing up their terms that I'm using so you guys can kind of look at it. So umami is the fifth flavoring. It's earthy. I like to call it, this is a British word, Moorish. It's not a word. Moorish is the stuff you want more of. It's fermented foods. It is tomatoes, mushrooms, Parmesan, anchovies, fish sauce, soy sauce. Anything fermented is in that umbrella. MSG, there's nothing wrong with MSG. It adds umami. And potato chip companies use it like crazy because it makes people want more. And bars use umami flavors because it makes people want to drink. So it's used a lot in commercial food preparation. Umami is huge. And it's huge as chefs. We want to add umami because it's the flavors people love. So Parmesan cheese in our little soup, our very simple little soup here, our pancetta is umami. It's a cured meat. Anything cured is umami. Our Parmesan cheese is umami. So by adding those ingredients, we're adding that umami, those earthy flavors that everybody wants more of. So our veggies are going. I mentioned if it looks a little dry, add some more oil. I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil. I'm heavy on olive oil in my kitchen. I lean towards Mediterranean cooking. I do that, and I do a lot of Southeast Asian cooking. Korean, actually, I'm really into at the moment too. But in the Mediterranean kitchen, olive oil, and it's really good for you. So lots of olive oil. So we're now gonna get our garlic into here, and we're gonna cook our garlic just until it's fragrant, which I write a lot of recipes. I use that term in all of my recipes with the garlic. Cook it just until it's fragrant, which is like a minute. When you smell it, that's where it's fragrant. It takes about a minute. Hello, how are you? So we're stirring in our garlic, and then we're gonna add all of our potatoes. Okay, so in they go. And you guys can just stir those in for me, okay? And a little bit of salt. Yep, some salt. Yeah, you're doing it. There you go. So we're stirring that in. And now we're basically ready to add our stock, guys, okay? All of our veggies are in. We got some more leek there. The leek can go in. No, yeah, you're just practicing. Cool. You've got some sweet little knife skills there. That's pretty nice. Okay, so did you guys try the veggie stock? It's already flavorful, right? It's pretty good. So that is 1,000 times better than just using water, right? Because we're adding flavor here. Give it a shot. Give it a try. We are gonna strain some off. We'll keep it cooking, and then we'll put it in the fridge for next week, or we'll freeze it. We'll decide. But yeah, we'll strain it first. Yeah. Often for stock, I'll reduce it to make a concentrate and then freeze it, so it doesn't take up a lot of space in your freezer. When you freeze concentrates of stock, when you go to use them, you just rehydrate them. So let's say we boiled it down by 10 times. To use it, you just add water, because when you boil anything down, you're boiling off the water content and you're intensifying the flavor. So you can rehydrate it to use it. And that's in cooking, like making the soup. If we forgot about it and we left it cooking and the water all cooked off, we could add water from the tap and we wouldn't affect the flavor, because all we've cooked out is the water content. But we are going to carry this over. Normally I would use, so I've got kind of asbestos hands. I cook for a living. Yeah, it's okay. So I'm going to carry this over here. Normally I would strain it through a sieve, but we've got time constraints. So we're going to get it straight. What I'm going to do, I saw a sieve lurking here. Here. So we're going to add stock. And you've seen here, guys, I'm not following a recipe, right? I'm just adding to cover. Oops, if you turn that, there you go. Thank you. Don't burn yourself. Yeah, thank you. And our potatoes, cut that size, will take about 15 minutes. So we're gonna throw our Parmesan rinds in at this point for flavor too. And then we're gonna cut some cabbage. So I'll show you how to deal with the cabbage in a second. So we'll add plenty of stock. I'll keep this stock cooking a bit longer. So we'll throw all these veggies back in. We're just trying to get the stock. This is unseasoned, so we will have to taste and season our soup a bit. But at the beginning, we're not going to season it fully because it will reduce. And if we season it fully, it'll end up too salty once it's reduced. So we'll start with that. We might add some more after, but we'll start with that. I'm going to take this back, put it back on the heat. There we go. And the tasting spoons are here. So Ruki is just going to taste this soup and add salt. We're going to turn it up now. We're going to, because we want it to boil. Do it? Yeah, because it won't taste. And then these Parmesan rinds. Sorry, this is more kitchen lingo. We call these deli cups. You're going to see these in all kitchen fridges in different sizes. So this is a liter deli cup. You get half liter and quarter liter deli cups. I don't know why we call them deli cups, but they're called deli cups. And then everybody in restaurant kitchens, we use like painter's tape, green tape. So you'll always hear people saying, where's the green tape? So you write whatever stuff is and you date it. So my son works he does dish for me a lot. So he did this. So he went Parmesan. I don't know why he said rim. It's not a rim, because he doesn't cook for a living. He called it a rim. It is a rind. Does that say? No, he said rim. February 2nd. So these were from February 2nd. And that's really important, is to identify what goes in your fridge. Because if not, you've got lots of people working in the kitchen, you may not know what it is. I take stuff home all the time that hasn't been labeled, and it sits in my fridge and it ends up getting thrown away because we don't know what it is. Well, I know what it is, but my two sons live with me and they don't know what it is. So I'm just going to turn this down a little. It's going a little fierce. How did it taste?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's just a vegetable soup, so it's nothing fancy, right? Like this is just like a farmhouse Italian style soup. The Parmesan rinds will add to it hugely, so we'll just keep, there were 3. We'll remember to pull 3 out. We'll throw this in dish. You just peel off your painter's tape. And yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Cabbage. So with your cabbage, we're gonna cut off, just to clean it up, the stem here, okay? And then we'll cut it into quarters. I'm not gonna use the whole thing, guys, it's too much. So you wanna cut it through the root, and I think we'll see. We'll add some of this. I would go on this part. Yeah, that part. Yeah, always with Parmesan fairly fine. So we're cutting our cabbage through the root, all right? And then you're gonna cut the root, not the root, the core. You're gonna cut the core out. And then to make it easy to slice, if you take it apart like that, it's a little flatter and a little easier to slice. And then you take your knife and you shred it. Don't cut your fingers. KJ's pretty fast. She cut her finger last time. So make sure you roll those fingers back. There you go. Let it go. Otherwise, you're going to lose a finger. I don't want it. No lost fingers in here, okay? Roll those fingers back. There you go. Same thing, Ruki. Make sure you're rolling your fingers back. I know it's super awkward, but just get in the habit. As you guys do more and more of this, you're going to get faster and faster, and then you really are in danger of cutting.
Just until it's the rim left?
Yeah, you may as well, and then we'll refrigerate what we don't use today, and we can use it for other things. Then we've got it done to use in other dishes. I can't remember what we're doing. I can't remember what we did last time. No, I mean on my last course to tell you what we're doing next. I might try and look on my phone and see if I can see what we did in week 3, and so I can tell you what we're doing next time. So cabbage straight into here, okay? It's very sweet from all the vegetables. It's a very sweet vegetable stock. It's tasty though. Okay, straight in. There we go. Oh, was that what we did? Show me. Pita chips. Oh, we made dips. Okay. That is what we did. We did pita chips and dips. This is almost a stew, guys. Maybe I'll leave it like a stew. I'm gonna add the pancetta back into it now so we get that flavor in the whole thing. The Parmesan rinds are in there for flavor. I think we're gonna add a little bit more stock. Leaves a lot of salt. That's better. I'm going to add a bit more stock to it. Can you throw that in the dish sink for me, love? Thank you. Just the soapy one. Into the soapy one. The cabbage. Added a lot of liquid. And then, while this just finishes cooking, last things, we're gonna chop some parsley for a garnish. So I'm gonna show you how to do that in a sec. I'm just gonna leave, oh, thank you. So I will take that, we'll leave that here for next time. So we're gonna, this is all stuff I'm gonna wrap up. We've got space in the fridge over there, so we'll keep it. I added more stock. It needs more salt. Anybody who wants to, give it a taste. It's just, as I say, there's no spice in there. It's just, we're gonna add lots of parsley for flavor, but it's tasty. It's just very simple stuff. But we're gonna finish it with pesto, which is gonna give it a lot of flavor. Because our pesto is gonna use Parmesan, garlic, basil, and I've also got another cheese called Pecorino that I brought some from work. Pecorino is another Italian cheese, but it's made with sheep's milk. It's kind of sharp and salty. So Parmesan cheese is sweet and nutty. Pecorino is sharp and salty. So when I make pesto, I use both. I use mostly Parmesan, but I add a hit of Pecorino for the layers of flavor. So it adds like a savory note. So I brought, because I don't know if the food processors work here, I brought a mortar and pestle from work. I teach a lot of Thai food, so I make a lot of Thai curry pastes. This is a small mortar and pestle, but we make them in mortars and pestles. So when you're using a mortar and pestle for a pesto, the first thing that's gonna go in there is some garlic. And with your garlic, you add some salt, okay? And then you pound, okay? So I don't know who wants to do that. You're gonna pound. And then to that, we are gonna add basil. So I just picked up some basil at Save on Foods. There's a basil at the, do you guys all know the Italian Center? Yeah, there's a really nice local basil at the Italian Center. I just didn't have time to go there today. I was running around. So I picked this up at Save On. It's not bad. So with this basil, you don't want to use the stems. You can see they're kind of coarse. So these, I don't love washing herbs either. Basil kind of collapses. So make a judgment call. If it's dirty, give it a wash. But if you're comfortable, I don't always wash it. For pounding it, it doesn't really like it. Maybe we'll wash it. We'll give it a very quick rinse. So I'm just picking all the basil leaves. This is what we're making. So what you want to do is keep pounding that. We're going to pound it to a puree. You want to see it look like a paste. So you just keep going until it's totally pasty, okay? You want it completely smooth, so keep going. Don't just get somebody else to come and take over when you've had enough. This is the traditional way in Italy to make pestos. They use a mortar and pestle. If you've got a good food processor, just use your food processor. But this is the nicest way. When you pound stuff on stone, the essential oils mingle in a way that you lose when you use a food processor. It's a really nice way to cook. Back to our soup. It's doing its thing. Parmesan rinds. There's a Parmesan rind. You can see it's kind of melting into it, so it's adding that Parmesan flavor in there. And I'm going to quickly just run these under the tap. We used all our towels here. You know what? I'll use this towel. Just dry them off before they hit the mortar and pestle. And basil doesn't really like knives, it blackens, but it's better with glass or ceramic and on stone. But I'm just gonna slice through it, and then I'm gonna give you this basil, and you're gonna add a little bit at a time and pound it. Okay? So you're making a puree out of that. And then, no nut allergies, right? Okay, so these are indulgent. These are really expensive. These are pine nuts. This is a classic, what they call a pesto alla genovese. So a pesto from Genoa, and it always has pine nuts in it. You can use any nut you like. You can use almonds, you can leave nuts out, you can use sunflower seeds, which are cheaper, and they do the same job. It just makes it kind of creamy. So we'll get a few of those in. Meanwhile, while we're pounding our pesto, parsley, how I like to do it to get the leaves for our garnish, I like to take my knife and just sweep the leaves off the stems. Because some of these stems are a bit coarse, and we're not going to use those. So I'm left with leaves and the finer stems. And to cut, there you go. To cut, that's a very small mortar and pestle, but it does the job. So to chop these kinds of herbs, you bundle them up like this, and then just run your knife through your bundle, okay? And then you can just, KJ, you're gonna finish this. Come over here and use my knife. And I don't want it too fine. You're just kind of slicing through that parsley. And that's gonna be the last thing. We're gonna stir some into the soup, and then we'll keep a little back for garnish. And then I'm just gonna start, you guys keep going with what you're doing. Somebody give the soup a stir for me. I'm gonna start just cleaning up some of these dishes here. Just moving them over to the dish area. Yeah, that's good. Give it a taste. See what you think. Okie dokes. Beauty. All right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're just starting to clear up as we go. We'll keep these. No. These. Once they're washed, they don't actually really last, potatoes, but here we go. And we're just kind of, it is hot. Yeah, yeah, it's hot. Don't burn your mouth, don't burn your hands, don't burn anything. Do not burn. It's good? It's good, it's good? Okay. Over here. All right. With our pesto, we're now gonna add, don't use too many of these, they're expensive. Gonna add some of this, and we're gonna add some salt, which is gonna help the abrasion. There's already some salt in there, a little bit more salt. Pine nuts will go in the fridge. And I keep all my nuts at work, my work in my fridge, because they're expensive and they go rancid. That can go over to dish. These will go in the fridge. And some of that is going to go into here, and then some we'll put in a Tupperware and put in the fridge. Yes. And we will also add some of this. So that's beautiful. I'm happy with that. We're good. So what we're going to do now is find a spoon, and we're going to mix in olive oil and cheese. We're gonna keep this on the thick side because it's to dollop onto soup. So you can just mix, oh sorry, use that, just mix it in. There you go. And then we're gonna add a handful of Parmesan and some pecorino. And just looking at it, I'm gonna go with some more of this. And normally I would add some lemon. I don't think I brought lemons. I totally forgot about lemon, which is fine. No, I don't have lemons, that's okay. And then you're gonna taste it for salt. Let's turn this down. Tasting spoons. We're gonna put these ones in dish. Hang on, I'm gonna bring the dirty one back. Just getting these into. Okay, so this is for the dirties. There you go. You're gonna taste it, guys. You can add more cheese. You can add salt. I want you to taste it with these, see what you think. And then add more cheese, more salt as you think. If I had pepper, I'd add pepper too, but I don't have pepper. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna taste it. Okay. So the French would call this pistou, which is like pesto, and they stir it into soups a lot. It's very typical to stir some pesto into minestrone. It really adds a lot of flavor. So you dollop it on when you're serving it, and then you eat it in your soup. It's very garlicky and very delicious, I think. So it doesn't need anything. So try a tiny bit. It's very highly seasoned. It's good. It'll be delicious in the soup. Try a little bit if you want to. This, we'll dollop it on the soup and then you swirl it. And we'll also add some Parmesan to our soup too. So each, we'll stir some in. Then our stock, which is made, that looks like an Instant Pot insert. That is totally an Instant Pot insert. So I don't want to use that up. What can I put stock into? Maybe I'll use it up. We're gonna strain our stock, guys. So you're not doing all the dishes tonight. It's not fair. Okay, so we're straining. And I'm gonna check the potatoes. They're probably ready. We are probably ready with soup. We're not left, that's a lot of veggies and not a lot of stock. That's how you get a flavorful stock. So it looks kind of wasteful, but this is how you get flavor into food. So you use your scraps. So we've got all that soup and then we've got this much left. It's not a ton, right? Right? But it's full of flavor. It's still, you throw it away. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, you could use it. Basically, there's not a lot of flavor. If we've done our job right, there's no flavor left in this, it's all in this. So there's generally very little flavor left in whatever you've made stock out of. The whole point of making stock is you extract all the flavor from your ingredients. So generally they're not very tasty to eat. It's all in your liquid. Okay, so our soup, this is almost a stew, guys, more than a soup. I'm gonna, you know what, because we've got pesto to garnish, I'm gonna stir all the parsley into it. So I add some lovely vibrant green. You guys can pick up your cutting boards and just leave your knives for the minute here. But if you take your cutting boards over to the dish pit, put them on the left-hand side. We're all gonna do dishes together afterwards, but I want everybody to eat in a minute. So I'm gonna fish these Parmesan rinds. Yeah, that's mine. I just need to remember to take it away with me. Thank you. So we put 3 Parmesan rinds in. We need to take 3 Parmesan rinds out. Are you all gonna have some soup? Yeah. Okay. Can you, it's Trent, right? Yes. Okay, Trent. Can you get, in the middle cupboard there's bowls. Can you get some bowls? How many of us are there? 1, 2, you're not gonna have any? Who's having soup? Hands up high if you're having soup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rookie, are you having soup? No? Okay, 5.
One, two. One. I don't think we're on How many people don't want soup? Like 2 of us?
Rookie doesn't and Liam doesn't. Are you sure? Okay. So I'm pulling out the Parmesan, so that's 1, 2 of them. And the potatoes, not quite cooked, it's almost. Just looking for the other Parmesan rind. There it is. All right, so, thank you. I'm gonna take these. We'll do the knives separately at the end. Thank you. Yeah, bowls, hon. And I think that Trent already got them out. Yes? Yeah, there we go. So, I don't know. Anybody who wants more? Sorry, let me just check the potatoes one more time. They're a little bit al dente, but they're okay. So I'm going to show you what you're going to do. So, okay, you guys, we need a ladle. So, the Parmesan, we had a bowl of Parmesan. Do we know where the bowl of Parmesan went, guys? Oh, thank you. Okay, so if we put this here, and let's put the pesto here. So if you get your bowl, I'm gonna just make a small bowl for me and I'll show you. Here. So you're gonna get a little ladle full of soup. And I haven't added cheese, so we can sprinkle cheese on top. So get some soup, get some Parmesan, if you want, and add a spoonful of that pesto, which just adds an absolute ton of flavor. And then stir your pesto in, and then that's your soup, okay? You could add, yeah? There's spoons in here, guys. 2, 3, 4. There's spoons, guys. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna turn it off. Oh. Sorry, hon. And then I like to stir the pesto in, so it's kind of added a lot to the flavor. And add lots of cheese. Because this is not spicy. This is like farmhouse, but the cheese and the bacon and your pesto are what adds flavor to it. Why aren't you eating?
Just don't want any
Don't want any?
vegetables.
Oh yeah, okay. That's fair.
Oh, you're just eating here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a table.
Or you can go outside, but then you have to come back to do dishes.
We'll go outside 'cause my son-
I'm so used to standing and eating in the kitchen. This is my life. Eating on the fly. This is very simple, but to me this is tasty. It's all good stuff. There's no pepper because we have no pepper. I would normally put pepper in it. And tell me what you think. Tolu, there's quite a bit left over, so I don't know if, yeah, there's quite a bit of soup. If you want some soup, yeah.
They are coming here. I'm very sure they will want some.
Yeah, they are.
Because,
They're-
yeah.
Oh, this is your group?
Yeah.
Oh, so I'll just leave it in the pot, and I'll leave the Parmesan and the pesto out. I'm gonna show you what to do.
Okay. So I can offer them.
You can. Let me show you.
Skip the dishes, but I think they will prefer to try the soup.
So it's just like a country farmhouse soup because it was knife skills tonight. So I'll leave this in here. So you're just gonna do a scoop of soup, okay, and then add to it. I'll leave the ladle in there. Some Parmesan, and this is a pesto. So just a spoon. Oh, but I'll put this in a bowl because this is mine. I need to take that back to work. So if I leave this and this here, when they serve a bowl full, add some cheese, add some pesto. And then when you're done, Tolu, are you going to be here? You know, I've just got a small shelf area. Just put it in there, yeah, the pesto. And I don't know if you've got anything to label with, but this is Foodworks, Sharpie or something on the, yeah. Do you like it?
Can I take some home?
You can, yeah. Oh, except today you're feeding.
No, it's okay. No,
It's okay?
It's totally fine. I was about to say that I prefer them.
That these take it home?
exactly.
Okay, then yes, take it home. Take it home. Take it home, darling. Take it home. Yeah, totally. Sorry?
Can I take a bowl?
You can take some home. Yeah, add some cheese and add some pesto to it, guys, before you take it, right? Just dollop it on top.
Where's the container for it?
I think in that box. Yeah. You didn't eat. Why did you not eat? You don't like vegetable soup either?
I don't know what this is.
It's not spicy enough?
I don't know.
There's that. And I'm just gonna do this with this. That. This. That was me. Did you like it? You like it? Okay, that's good. That is good. Take some Parmesan, darling, too. It's pecorino cheese, so it's salty. So take some of that too. It's made from sheep's milk, so it just, yeah. This is cows, this is sheep. So it's like if you're trying to do a salty grated cheese on Italian food, you do pecorino. I use it a lot, and this is my son calling. Hang on a second, sorry. Hey, what's up? I'm teaching the youth group. We're just finishing up. And then I've actually got to go to Lucky Supermarket and do some shopping for tomorrow on my way home and drop into work with some of the shopping for my class tomorrow. And then I was going to bring home stuff to do. If you're home, are you going out? Oh, we were going to do gnocchi is what we talked about, but we can. What time is it? What time is it now? It's late? Yeah. 6:18? Yeah, I'll be home by, Lucky will take me, it's 15 minutes from here. I'll be 20 minutes in Lucky, into work. I guess I'll be an hour and a half before I get home. Is that, do that. Yeah, but I'll bring everything. Do we have Parmesan at home? Yeah, do that, because I can't get it at Lucky and I'm out at work. But yeah, okay. All right, see ya. Okay. Oh no, I'm not out, I'm lying. I've got some graded from yesterday. I'm being silly. I already put it out to bring home. Okay, see you in a bit. Bye, 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 bye. Sorry, my son, he's got his boyfriend over for dinner. It's like, anyway, so. Okay. I've got a 23-year-old and a 25-year-old, and they both live with me.
Is there a container I'd like to take some soup home as well?
In this box. Tolu knows better than I do where containers are. Okay. So, let's. Thank you for doing all of that. Thank you. Okay. Do it. Take it with you. Bye, love. Nice to see you. Okay, guys. So, we got a few more. Ruki's done almost everything. She's amazing. We're gonna. Did you guys see some plastic wrap in here anywhere? Up here. So we're gonna wrap up our produce. If you've just, let me wash my hands actually because I just ate. Let me do that. Let's put these in. We're gonna, can somebody dump all those veggies into the garbage for me? No, right? It's gone. Yeah, no, it's gone. Yeah, it's the same when you make meat stocks. It feels really wasteful, but the meat has no flavor left. Okay. Thank you. Put that back.
Why did this on the side?
You throw it in the sink. Just throw it in the sink and we're going to wash it.
Okay. I don't want it to sit in there.
No, we're going to wash it right away. We got to finish the dishes. We got to finish the dishes. Okay, guys. I'm going to get you guys to help finish with the dishes once you've eaten, if that's okay. Most of them are done, and then we need to dry and put stuff away. So let me just quickly wash my knives. So okay, let's just all right. Could you do me a favor and put that, if you can find a Tupperware it would fit in, there's actually a small one there. Put that little bit of pesto. Somebody should just take it home. I feel like somebody should take it home. Maybe we'll just put it in this one. You know what? Don't do that. We will put it in. There's more pesto. Why don't you take the rest of the pesto? Better than wasting it. Because it won't really last till next week. And then